Hey there. This is Beyond the Unknown. I've read a lot of stories from people who claim something happened to them in the woods. Most of them have a fairly ordinary explanation. But every now and then, one comes along that's a little harder to dismiss. This story takes place at Amicalola Falls in Georgia, and even if you don't believe in the supernatural, some parts of it are difficult to explain. Don't whistle back. I grew up in a Muslim Arab family, and ever since I was a kid, I was taught to respect the things that happen after dark. In our culture, we believe there are beings called jinn that exist alongside us. They're said to live in a world almost identical to ours, a twisted version of reality that we normally can't see. But at night, especially in isolated places, that barrier is believed to become thinner. Whether you believe that or not, what happened to my family at Amicalola Falls still bothers me to this day. This happened when I was 15. My family decided to take a weekend trip to Amicalola Falls State Park in North Georgia. There were 14 of us all together. My parents, siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles. We left Atlanta around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so by the time we reached the park, it was already about 5:30. We immediately started hiking the staircase to the falls. My older cousin, Omar, and I stayed together the whole time. By the end of the climb, we were about 400 steps from the top when we heard our younger cousins shouting for us from below. "We're almost there," I yelled back. No response. They kept calling, so we figured something had happened and hurried back down. When we reached them, my younger cousin Adam looked genuinely shaken. We asked him what was wrong. He told us he'd heard Omar calling his name from somewhere deeper in the woods. According to him, the voice sounded exactly like Omar's, except something felt wrong about it. He described it as distorted, almost like someone trying to imitate his brother but not getting it quite right. The voice kept telling him there was a faster way to reach the top if he climbed through the rocks off the trail. He actually started walking toward it before stopping. The slope it wanted him to climb was incredibly steep, covered in slick rocks with water rushing over them. Even experienced climbers would have had trouble getting up there. The strange part? Omar had been beside me the entire hike. He hadn't wandered off once. In fact, he'd barely spoken at all. We brushed it off as Adam hearing another hiker, or maybe just misunderstanding something. It seemed strange, but not enough to ruin the trip. Looking back, I wish we'd left right then. Instead, we spent the rest of the evening fishing by the reservoir. As the sun disappeared, something about the entire place changed. I've spent plenty of time outdoors, and I know forests get quieter after dark. This wasn't that. It was complete silence. No insects, no frogs, no birds. Even the fish that had been constantly breaking the water's surface simply vanished. The reservoir became perfectly still, turning into what looked like a sheet of black glass. You couldn't tell where the shoreline ended and the water began. It felt as if the entire forest was holding its breath. My little brother, Yusuf, and I had wandered a short distance away from everyone else. We were sitting near the water trying to scare each other with ghost stories when he suddenly grabbed my arm. "Did you hear that?" "I didn't hear anything," I told him. "No, seriously, listen." So I did. At first it sounded like a low groan. Then it shifted into something almost animal. It was deep enough to be a bear, but somehow it also sounded strangely human. The sound echoed across the water and through the trees at the same time, making it impossible to tell where it was coming from. We tried convincing ourselves it had to be wildlife. Then we both felt it. That unmistakable feeling that something was watching us. I slowly looked across the reservoir. Between the trees on the opposite bank, I saw two pale eyes staring directly at us. The second we focused on them, they disappeared. Not by ducking behind a tree, not by walking away. They were simply gone. Maybe it was our imagination. But two people don't usually imagine the exact same thing at the exact same moment. The strange groaning continued. If anything, sounded closer now. We called Adam over and asked if he'd noticed anything strange. Before we could even explain what we'd seen, he quietly said, "I saw eyes over there too." Every hair on my arm stood up. For reasons I still can't explain, none of us wanted to admit we were scared. Instead, the four of us wandered toward the tree line. Omar and I both needed to use the bathroom, so we took turns walking a short distance into the woods. When it was my turn, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was standing just out of sight, watching, waiting. Whenever our family spread out while hiking, we had a simple habit. If someone wandered a little too far, we'd give a short whistle so everyone knew where the others were. It wasn't some special code. It was just easier than shouting through the trees. As I stood there, I heard a single whistle from somewhere behind me. Without thinking, I whistled back. For a second, everything was quiet. Then another whistle answered. Only, it didn't come from behind me. It came from much deeper in the forest. I froze. The sound was distant enough that whoever made it had to be well off the trail. Omar wasn't out there anymore. The others were back by the campfire. There shouldn't have been anyone else in those woods. The parking lot had been nearly empty when we arrived, and by then it was already close to 9 o'clock at night. I stood there for another second, listening. Nothing. Not a branch snapping, not a footstep, just silence. I told myself it had to be another camper, even though I didn't really believe it. I turned around and walked back as quickly as I could, deciding not to tell anyone what had happened. A few minutes later, we were sitting around the campfire when that same twisted groaning echoed through the trees again. This time, everyone heard it. Even my cousin Layla looked up immediately. Nobody laughed. Nobody tried explaining it away. We all knew something wasn't right. Instead of telling the adults we'd been hearing voices and seeing eyes in the woods, we simply told them we'd heard what sounded like a bear nearby. That was enough. Within minutes, everyone was packing the cars. As everyone else walked ahead, I stayed behind for a few seconds to grab the last of our supplies from the fire. That's when I heard it. At first it sounded like an owl, a soft hoot somewhere in the darkness. Then the sound changed. The hoot stretched into a whistle. The whistle twisted into something that almost sounded human. Then it screamed, not loud enough to shake the forest, not close enough to know exactly where it was. Just one long, unnatural shriek that made every instinct in my body tell me to run. I didn't stop to look. I threw everything into the back of the car and jumped inside without saying a word. As we pulled away, everyone went completely silent. From somewhere deep in the trees, soft whistles answered each other. One, then another, then another. As soon as our car reached the main road, the whistles stopped. Almost instantly, the forest came back to life. Crickets, frogs, wind moving through the leaves, everything. Like someone had flipped a switch. We never returned to Amicalola Falls. Even now, I sometimes catch myself listening whenever I hear someone whistle outside at night. Maybe our minds connected a series of strange coincidences. Maybe there was a perfectly normal explanation for everything we experienced. Or maybe some places are simply better left alone after dark. If you ever visit Amicalola Falls, enjoy the waterfalls. Enjoy the trails. Just don't stay after sunset. And if you hear someone calling your name from somewhere in the woods, don't answer. If you hear a whistle from somewhere in the trees, keep walking. Some things don't need to know. You heard them. Personally, this is one of those stories that sticks with me. Not because it proves anything supernatural, but because of how many small details line up. The copied voice, the silence in the forest, the whistles answering each other. On their own, you could probably explain each one away. But together, they create something that's genuinely unsettling. Whether it was just a series of strange coincidences or something far more difficult to explain, I'm not sure. What I do know is so that if I ever find myself alone in the woods at night and hear someone whistling from somewhere I can't see, I don't think I'd be answering. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you believe there was a logical explanation for what happened? Or do you think something else was out there that night? And if there are any stories, mysteries, or topics you'd like me to cover in a future video, let me know down in the comments. I read as many as I can. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, leaving a like and subscribing really does help more than you might think. It helps more people discover the channel and allows me to keep bringing these stories to life. Until then, get some rest if you can. And I'll see you next time, same place, beyond the unknown.